here in the studio tonight. I'm going to try vertical just to see how it is because I think all I really have to do is talk for the most part. Um, I'm watching us on a screen behind me, so I think I should be able to see questions if we have to. Howdy, Never and Nana, great to see you. We've got me and Taz, Dorothy Walters, um, Scooter Mom. All right, so tonight, by the way, if you're coming in, if you're watching us on the replay, please make sure that you like and subscribe, leave a comment if you can, that would be most appreciated. Tonight, I kind of want to just go over what the events of the weekend were and give a little bit of a recap. Um, if you watched me on the drives, you probably already saw a lot of this. I also want to give everybody a chance to ask questions in this. And howdy, no one, great to see you. I really want to make sure that we're kind of staying focused on the events of the weekend, but then also ask me other questions, anything that might be interesting to you or something that you feel you might want an answer from me. I reserve the right to answer what I want to and not answer what I don't want to. So we'll go from there. Okay, so as most of you know, this past weekend was the celebration of life for MyTony, and Natalie invited us all to join her. I definitely took advantage of that. There were 250 other people, at least, and maybe even more than that, that also took advantage of that opportunity to go and share and celebrate MyTony's life. So that was just really enjoyable, incredible, fun. Really loved what was going on there. So, howdy, Corn Freak. Thanks for coming in. And sorry, I might be a little bit delayed because I'm paying more attention to the computer screen because it's bigger and I've got old eyes. So let's kind of just go through the weekend, right? So it started out on Saturday morning. I got up at dark 30 and got in the car. We got the stream going. I was absolutely flabbergasted that people actually wanted to watch this ride, and we were pretty pretty often we were in the 40 person, 40, 50, 60 people were watching most of the way up. Um, you learned that I love driving. You learned that I either know a lot about some of these places or I'm really good at making up information. So either way, I'm happy with what we were able to talk about. Hopefully you all enjoyed the ride. We went down Illinois, saw a lot of corn. Howdy, Kenny Edcox, how are you doing? We then went up 90, hit Rockford, crossed into Wisconsin, went through Madison, Wisconsin Dells, then over to Toma. Saw a lot of wooded land, right? There were some questions that were asked along the way. I tried to answer what I could. That was great. But for the most part, it was just a really enjoyable ride because on my way up, we talked the whole way through. And it was really fun, really enjoyable. I really appreciated that there were so many people in asking questions, chatting, just sharing time, and hopefully we got to know one another better through that process. I think I got to, oh, how do I wonder if I can tag those. Okay. Me and Taz, I'm going to come back to that. So, because I kind of want to get through, I want to go through the highlights first, and then we'll come back and we'll recap some of these other elements. So, but I am definitely going to answer that question because I do have favorite parts of this drive. We got to, well, I think I got just outside of Minnesota, 9 o'clock in the morning, I think, and then I went over to Denny's, had some breakfast. I let you guys get a little bit of rest, do some coffee, and then we took a second video for that last stretch into St. Paul. We think we drove past the church when we were still in the car, but then I got out and we knew I was going to go live around 12:30, 1 o'clock, but beforehand I just did an impromptu live because I was a little bit wired from the drive, ready to go. and I thought, hey, you know what? Let me go just scout the church, see what it's like. So we went up to the church, figured out where the parking spots were, figured out what the building structure was, how to get in, how to get out, all of those kinds of fun things in there. And then after we saw the church, we went on a little bit of tour. We went over to the state capitol, massive building, some statues. We looked at the names on some of these statues. I don't remember. I remember Johnson was one of them. I don't remember who the other one was. Then we walked down the front lawn of the state capitol, and that has a direct line of sight to the St. Paul Cathedral. The St. Paul Cathedral is a Catholic church, beautiful, massive, very boxy. So we were used to these long cross, the chart, like Notre Dame, it's called Carte or Sarte, Charte. That's what the style of that church is. But St. Paul is very boxy, so it's a very square footprint, very similar to in London, there's a St. Paul church, and that also is very boxy. I think that was kind of all we saw. We might have walked around a little bit more in the neighborhood, but then I kind of let you guys go. I went to go get myself a water, parked the car, or moved where the car was at, and I came back at 11:30-ish, right? And we did the scheduled lunchtime protest. This was an interesting organization. So a couple of things. When I got to the org at lunchtime, there was already somebody there, so somebody was there watching us. And I'm sorry, Marzi, I didn't say hi. Hello, how you doing? There was already somebody there. His name's Ted S. He is somebody who has historically been encouraged to. Sorry if the sound wasn't that good until right now. I just picked up the mic. He was somebody who has been encouraged to stream, but he just never really did. But he was out there. When I got there, he had an iPad, and he was playing L. Ron Hubbard speeches so that people would hear just the batshite crazy stuff that L. Ron Hubbard would spew. So I loved that he had that attitude. We walked around a little bit. There was a security guard in the skyway above the church, and when I went to show Ted where I'd seen people earlier in the day, this security guard, and he wasn't a security guard, he was a maintenance person, but he waved us off the sidewalk, said you can't be there. But then Ted and I kind of walked around. We tried to probe the building a little bit. There was a security guard on the far end of the organization. We talked to him a little bit, and he just said, hey, he's a security guard for the church, but he didn't really know anything about the church. So that was interesting in whatever that might be. I don't think there was much else that went on there. We saw a couple of people arrive. We kind of questioned them with, hey, anything positive to say about the church? But really no responses from there, except for the person in the skywalk waving us off. Nobody really pushed us around up there. So it was kind of uneventful. We didn't see a lot of people coming in. We didn't expect to see a lot of people coming in. Now, one thing that we did find out is that for the most part, it is mostly foot traffic or car traffic. And the car traffic goes into the garage underneath the building, not in the building next door, which is the History Theater. So they park downstairs and they take an elevator up. All of the doors, so there's like this indoor mall space that the church is attached to. All of the doors, that indoor mall space, had been closed. And most of the day, I kept on saying that I think, sorry about that. I wanted to mute the channel because I was hearing a little bit of feedback. Most of the day, I kept on saying, I don't think that they're aware that there are protesters coming, because Scientology would not tell an organization that has not seen protests happen that protests might occur. Now, once we started showing up, they might have made phone calls. Later on, we're going to find out that I was most likely wrong in that assumption, that in fact they probably were alerted to what was going on. But again, we tried to probe the building. We couldn't really probe the building. Neither one of us thought it was okay to walk into the garage, because there's signs that say don't walk into the garage. There's a ramp that goes below the building. So
we had scouted, we did everything we could. We didn't think we were seeing anybody else. We were out there for about an hour. So we then we closed down the stream, and then Ted and I went and we had a drink, had a couple of snacks, just relaxed for a while until we knew that there would be more protesters coming in the 4 o'clock hour. So somewhere between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. In that time, Ted bought me a drink, and I really appreciate that. And by the way, we were drinking. He was drinking lemonade. I was drinking non-alcoholic. While I do like beer, I do not like having any alcohol in my system whenever I'm at the org, because just some bad decisions can occur. So that's kind of where we were at that point. He then said, "Hey, you want me to show you around the town?" And he took me on a tour of the town, which was great. It felt like Windy Wanders. So if you're unaware, I have another channel, Windy Wanders the City. It really is me just going around the city of Chicago or wherever I'm at and showing you some points of interest and places to go, places to see about the city. But he took me over the river. We looked at the river. He told me a couple of things about some of the things that were near that point in the river. Just had fun. We went over to the Science Museum. By the way, the building that Scientology currently occupies used to be the Science Museum, and it was a fairly large building. You'll see that there's 3 floors inside of where Scientology is at. It's spacious. It's got a bigger floor plate than Chicago, but Chicago, since it's taller, has more square footage in total. One of the things that I thought was interesting at the lunchtime, Aaron was saying, this is the absolute largest ideal org I've ever seen. And quite honestly, it probably is our largest ideal org he's ever seen. It is not the largest ideal org that I've ever seen. So Chicago is quite a bit larger than the Twin Cities. Ted and I, wandered around. He gave me a tour. And then, as we approached the 4 o'clock hour, we started back towards the organization. Now, Natalie and I had been in communication. We wanted to make it we wanted to have as much information as possible for anybody who wanted to come out to protest. Where do you park? What does the building look like? What can we do to do this? But then Natalie gave me a note that said, by the way, all the people from Clearwater, there was a storm and they got diverted to Rochester. So the people that came in from Clearwater, and that would be Aaron Smith-Levin, Jenna Miscavige, Farrell Sherrill, growing up in Scientology, George, Sandy McKenna, I think. And I can't tell if Sandy is both YouTube and podcast, but she does a lot of podcasts, and I would say more of an informative and interview style of podcast. But later I heard that they had a wind shear, and people were saying they had never seen everybody come out of their chair in an airplane at the same time like they had at this point. And wind shears are dangerous, and by the way, there's probably a reason why they have seatbelts on airplanes. But they got diverted to Rochester. They had to get refueled. They spent maybe 30 minutes there, and then they got on the plane and came back, right? Hey, Joe Cool, how you doing? And Joe, thanks for the warning. I was actually up in Minnesota when you gave me the warning. But yeah, we had some fun down here as well in the city. Good to know that you've got your power back. Ono Nora was there. Ono Nora came in a little bit earlier to help Natalie. Mama Opal was there. She was helping Natalie. And there were a couple of cars that were trying to go capture all the people in Clearwater. So eventually all of the people from Clearwater arrived at the org. But before they arrived, Ted and I got back up to the org, and it was such a pleasure when we got up there. There were already 10 protesters there. There was chalk all over the sidewalks. There were signs everywhere. The police had already been called, and having been called, they came and said, "Hey, you can't step on that step." So what happens if you've seen the org and if you watch the videos? And by the way, all of the videos are in the description of this particular video. So the drive and all of the protests that we did. There's a square corner of the organization. and somebody was apparently stepping on a step. Scientology does what Scientology does. They called the police. The police said, you can't step on that step. So that was kind of the news that was there. Now, I'm going to miss some names, and I apologize for it, and some people really didn't want their names to be known, but I think it's Genuine Lee was one of the people. Monkey Eyebrow was one of the people. And Monkey Eyebrow was, she's the first person that ever asked me for a picture, which is like, it was very strange to me. To me, I'm just this stupid bald guy who goes out and protests at church, but apparently, more people know me than I think at this point, right? So it was nice that somebody had thought to say, hey, I'd love to get a picture with you. But it was really enjoyable. And then probably 15 minutes later, Natalie and Nora and Aaron, Jenna, Farrell Cheryl, George growing up in Scientology, they show up. And for the most part, we had kind of been walking around the outside of the organization to this point. Well, hey Kendra, thanks for coming in. Aaron decided, you know what, I'm going inside. So he walked down the ramp, and by the way, Barb was there as well. And Barb is a force. That Barb is, if you ever heard the saying, a bull in a china shop, Barb is a bull in a china shop. That Barb's going to do what Barb's going to do. And it's just a pleasure and a joy to watch her. So Aaron, Ted S., and Barb, they walked into the garage, they took the elevator up, and they were inside the building. And no police were called because they don't own this part of the building. They only own the part of the building that the church footprint is in. And I say church a lot, we all know it's a cult, but hopefully people know that I don't think it's an okay place when I say it's a church. There was a lot of fun that Aaron, it was fun to watch Aaron kind of investigate the place. Aaron had a great video. He did one of his shorts. One of the Scientologists came out, and Aaron confronted them and asked them, hey, can you talk about Scientology? And he definitely didn't want to talk about Scientology. So he tried to escape into the elevator, and Aaron said, well, I'll walk into the elevator. And now this guy is trapped in the elevator with Aaron, which is very fun. And the Scientologist is on the phone with somebody else who's in the org, either in the org or in OSA. And at some point, the phone, which is still on speaker, and you hear it on Aaron's short, the person on the phone, and it's a female, says, well, just pretend you're going to, and very quickly the Scientologist tries to get the mute off of there. But right, the idea that says, this is how ethical the Church of Scientology is. Hey, pretend you're going to, right? So the idea that they telegraph their deceptiveness in this way. So that was fun. He definitely, made the guy really uncomfortable. They went down, they came back up. Then we walked up the escalator, and the way that St. Paul works is there's sky bridges that get you between buildings, and those sky bridges are actually public sidewalks. So even though they go through the inside of a building, those are municipal public sidewalks that everybody has the right to be on that. And this sidewalk happens to go right through the Scientology space. So it's on the second floor, and when you're there, it's entirely glass walls looking into two parts of the Scientology organization. And we can see the academy, which is the classroom of all the organizations, and we saw the course registrar, we saw where their coffee spot is at, we saw where their auditing rooms are at, and we were just videoing up and down, and they were not happy. You could tell they were scrambling around in that space. So it was fun and funny to watch that occur. None of the Scientologists were happy. Aaron is rather educated about how Scientology works. He was definitely, I would say, putting pressure, but the way that I say pressure is that he would ask questions that you could tell made people feel very uncomfortable, and because he's an ex-Scientologist, he can speak Scientologese, right? And he can put more, he can make people feel more uncomfortable than I can. Now, I will tell you that I always want to make people feel uncomfortable. Howdy, Mama Opal. Thanks for coming in. Great to have you. So that's kind of how that session went, right? There were a lot of protesters. I'm guessing at the high point we probably had 20 protesters outside that organization. So that was really fun. And then something happened, and I want to say this as matter-of-factly as possible. Please do not put any political comments in the chat. Zero tolerance in this process. But we had learned that there was a shooting and that Donald Trump was a target of the shooting. We didn't know what really had happened at that point. I will tell you that people that are from the Twin Cities, they have a little bit of PTSD, rightfully so, from the George Floyd incident and riots, and it was sort of like, you know what, we probably want to get out of town. So we were there for maybe an hour, and after the hour, we hear this news is breaking, and it's sort of like, you know what, let's kind of get out of town, right? I think the rest of the protesters stayed for maybe about another hour in that time frame. So now we're done with the protesting. Something that I feel very privileged that Natalie and I talk quite a bit. That we just enjoy having conversations with one another. I wanted to be very supportive of her in regards to, she just lost a life partner, and the struggles that were going on there. And even while Tony was still with us, I was always making sure to both email and talk with Tony and email and talk with Natalie, just to give them positive affirmations, right? That it's not that hard to be kind in the world. I will say that we've seen that not everybody in our circles is kind, but I'm going to try to be kind whenever I can. So, howdy, SPTV Hall of Honor. Great to have you in here. Natalie invited me back to her home, so I was able to spend some time with Natalie, the Clearwater crew, some of her local friends. The children were there. Some of the moderators that we know, and if the moderators want to raise their hand, they can. I don't really want to. I don't want to disclose any of that. But the thing that I want to share with everybody is that night, what I was so happy with is that Natalie was smiling, Natalie was laughing, people were telling stories, people were reminiscing. It was just a fun night, and you could tell that she was at ease and amongst her friends, right? And I was happy to be in the room at that point in time. So it was really just, it was enjoyable to see, right? And yeah, all right, I'm gonna go with 100% means yes, but Mama was there too, and just another, Mama does a great job. Mama Opal does a great job of helping moderate over on Natalie's channel. She's a huge supporter of both of my channels, and I really appreciate that, just like Dipme is, and Nancy, of course. Nancy is a moderator here as well as with Natalie. But Mama Opal just really did an awful lot of the heavy lifting to make sure that Natalie didn't have to worry about any details. So if you ever get a chance to, say thank you to Mama Opal. She did a great job. Now, she's not the only one. That Natalie had plenty of other family and friends, but Mama Opal, it was noticeable that she had stepped up, and really appreciate that. So at that point, we all go back to our hotels and everything, and Saturday night is over. It does storm overnight Saturday, and we had storms the day before. But hi, Rachel S. Great to see you. And yeah, Rachel, it's again the idea that to see that she was so comforted and she was smiling, and she was laughing, and she was in the comfort of friends. Was just it was amazing to see. Now I want everybody to know Natalie is going to have some bad days ahead of us, right? That the idea that she's lost her life partner at this point in time, but the idea that we're all supporting her is a big deal, in my opinion, right? Hey Cubs, how you doing there? Great to see you. So on Sunday, I don't sleep well. I when I wake up and I go do stuff. And I thought, you know what, this is an excellent opportunity. I'm going to go back over to the org. And I thought all I was going to be able to do was I was going to be able to get some great video inside. So that, again, I was going to get up on the walkway and I was going to film both sides of the organization and, come home. And that was going to be it. It was an eventful 90 minutes. I do have the link, howdy Marina. I do have the links in the description. I don't want to play videos here today. I kind of want to just talk about this and then give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have. I got there and there was some activity, and I was able to challenge or confront some of the staff members. Hey, anything positive to say about the church? And we would get absolute silence. But it was noticeable there were people in there. So eventually I decided, I'm going to go in the garage and I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to go across the walkway. And as I go across the walkway, there's a local just trying to get to the History Museum, and the History Museum door is locked. So she can't get over there, and she had asked me, why is that locked? I didn't know. It had been open the day before, so it was a little bit confusing to me, but I didn't really know how that worked. Well, just as her and I are having this conversation, a woman in a white shirt comes out of Scientology and says, it's a St. Paul law that you can't linger in this hallway. I'm going to call the police. And I said, well, you call the police, and I will wait here for the police, because it is not against the law to be on a public walkway. And it would be a chilling element and a violation of my First Amendment rights not to allow me to be someplace in public. So she evaporates into the building. She looks like she's on the phone. And by the way, she did call the police. She goes back into the building. And as I said, I'm going to wait for the police. Now, I know the police are going to show up out front, so I actually walk downstairs. And if you walk downstairs, the way that it looks is it looks like you're inside of a mall, and then there's 6 or 8 doors that are the main entrance from this interior mall into the Scientology space. So I brought the camera over there and took some pictures, and we saw some people that were walking through the org. We saw people coming up the elevator, and in true Scientology fashion, we see this in Chicago all the time too. I will ask somebody, do you have anything good to say about the church? And they'll feign ignorance. Church? What church? I don't know what you're talking about. And so what he did is, instead of going into the doors that were right there inside the building, he walked around the building, and there's another entrance in front of the building on the corner, and he walked in there. So it's sort of like, yeah, you can feign ignorance, but you're just an ignorant person, in that space, trying to tell me that you're not a Scientologist. And I will take it as your non-response was, no, there's nothing positive in Scientology. Howdy, Susie. Good to see you. So I've taken some images. The police haven't shown up yet. I walk upstairs, and I'm going to go back onto the sidewalk, or onto the Skyway, which is this area that I've been on before, and the maintenance person from Scientology is out there, and he's putting a chain on the door. So he's chaining the door locked, and then they put a padlock on it, so you can no longer get in there. They do it to both sides. So if we think about it, it's a tunnel in essence, and there's 2 glass doors on one side and 2 glass doors on the other side of this tunnel, and they had chained both of those doors locked. Well, I immediately thought, this is a fire problem and a safety problem. So I called the police, and I said, listen, I'm being locked out of the sidewalk here. I can't go through the skyway, and I think that this is a fire emergency here, that there is no way, if there fire broke out in here, people would not be able to get out of this walkway. They'd be trapped inside. And I'm going to say that later on, there's another um, element that could have been a problem, and I could have claimed in this situation. So, having been locked out, I decide I'm going to go downstairs and I'll just wait for the police to show up. And the police show up actually pretty quickly. The police, I said, hey, I know that they called you. Why don't you go and talk to them, and they'll tell you your short story. And when you're done, come back out, and I'll tell you what my problem is. So they do go in. It's really only about 10 minutes. They come out, and I said, I know they called you because I was lingering. And the cop said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with lingering. Don't worry. We don't care about that at all. And then I said, I'm a little bit concerned that that door is locked up there. And they said, well, we can't really see we can't go up there. We can't see that it's locked. But they did say that they have somebody monitoring it. And I said, well, they're going to tell you they had somebody monitoring it, but they don't have somebody monitoring it. And if you want me to show you, I'll go upstairs, and with my camera, I can make them disperse like roaches. The police weren't overly invested in trying to go up there and get to the bottom of this. Wasn't something that I was going to push. I knew that I had enough of my story to show that Scientology was preventing me from exercising my First Amendment right as a journalist and as a citizen that wanted to go across that walkway. I also knew that what they had claimed I had done was not illegal, right? So lingering is not something that's illegal. So thus endeth the police episode of the day. Now, I did go back upstairs, and I took video of them showing that there is nobody in there, because the security guard, when I was coming up, he would kind of peek around the door, and he saw me, and then when he saw me, he'd go back in the building, so he was stayed inside of the Scientology space. And so I have a film of the hallway with nobody in there, right? There is no monitor. If something was to occur, nobody would be able to unlock those doors. So, yes, Scientology lies. Hopefully that's not something surprising to anybody in this chat. At that point, I called the non-emergency number, and I know I'm going to take heat for this. I should have called 911. I just can't, in good consciousness, waste resources like that. So I called the non-emergency number. I will say that MD Media did hear that the dispatch went out, that they were going to come back, but it would have been a low priority. Okay. So then I go downstairs, and I'm going to wait for the police again because I can't really get any video upstairs in the tunnel anymore. And I'm downstairs waiting for the police to arrive. Now a fun part comes out. Two gentlemen, they're senior to me. I think they're not spring chickens. They come out, and I notice one of them has a white ball cap with the Way to Happiness emblem on it. And if you don't know, the Way to Happiness is a front group for Scientology. That's one of the ways that they kind of safe point the community and show we do good for the community, right? We've got this Way to Happiness manual. So I thought that they were going to be out recruiting for Scientology under the guise of Way to Happiness. And I said, hey, do you have anything positive to say about the church? And they walked up to me and said, oh, the church has been great to me. And I said, well, I hear that a lot, that the church has been life-changing and it's been great, but that's so generic and it sounds like the world is magic. And then I asked him a few questions, and I said, did the church make you wealthier? Did it make you healthier? Did it make you taller? And I got a kick out of the fact that I asked him if it made him taller. He said, oh, healthier, definitely. It definitely makes me healthier. And then he had mentioned that he feels that he can reason about the world better because he's in Scientology. And when he had made that statement, he had said that, yeah, thank you, MD Media, and that is one of those items. And no one, I've got your question. So the police never did come back, at least while I was there. So I was there for 90 minutes. At some point, I realized I need to get back so I can get ready for the howdy, Farrell Cheryl. Great to have you in here. I need to get ready. I need to get back to my hotel so I can get ready for the celebration of life. But we've got these two gentlemen out. He's talking to me, and I said, hey, how do you get your news? And isn't it strange that there's such a small group of people that give you your news? And before he's really able to answer, here comes a staff member. And the staff member comes out and says, come on, we gotta go in, come on, this way, this way. And she comes out and she pulled these two gentlemen back into the org. What was really noticeable, one is she had to physically hold one of the men by their elbow to get them to come in. It was obvious he did not want to go in. We're going to find out later why he didn't want to go in, but he had made the motion of, no, I need to go over there. By the way, it's hard to point on a small camera. I need to go over there. And he's making this motion away. But she makes, she compels him to go into the organization. And I give the guys a little bit of razzing about, see, this is your church. They won't even let you talk to somebody in public. So how well is their communication, right? Communication is universal solvent. You can't even talk to me. And they go inside the church. Okay. What I want to tell you that they were on, I thought they were going to be recruiters. I later found out, and I'm going to, hopefully I'll be able to talk to Nora tomorrow, but I talked to Nora that afternoon, and I said, what were these guys doing? And it was the survival rundown. And what the survival rundown is, it's, and no one will probably be able to check me on this better, but it's almost meditation, but the idea is that it's supposed to bring you to present time. Because remember that in Scientology, you're supposed to have such control of your mind that you're right now, you're right here, you're present, you're in the moment. So what these two guys are going to do, they're twinning, and they're going to challenge one another to be present in time and in space and all of that. And it'd be stupid things like, hey, do you see that door right there? Go touch that door. Yes, I see that door. Yes, that door is here right now, type thing. And they've got to do this for 1,200 hours. And it's a course that they paid to do. So they paid to take this course, and the course is Survival Rundown, and they have to put a whole bunch of time in it. And it takes an awful lot of hours. And the reason that this gentleman was so upset was, A, he paid money, and B, he doesn't have that much time, right? So he's spent time to come to the church today to do his work, his coursework, and she's preventing him from being able to do that. So they go back into the church, and I kind of refresh everybody's memory as to what just happened here. So if you watch the channel, you know that oftentimes I try to concisely say what we've been talking about. And so I walk around the back of the building, and lo and behold, these two guys have come out the back of the building. It felt just like Chicago. And on the video, you'll see me laugh out loud. I mean, it's just so funny when I catch these people sneaking around in these spaces. So at the back door, these two people who are on Survival Rundown, they come out, and the female guard that shepherded them in the first time is there, and there's another male staff member that's out there as well. Well, the two, nice. I'm reading the, Natalie called me Fun Size. So these two people on Survival Rundown, they're going to walk past me, and one of them says to me, hey, we're trying to do a procedure, and you're invading our privacy. And I explained to him, there is no expectation of privacy in public. And they walk past me. And they walk across the street towards the Science Museum, right? And I still think, I don't know they're on Survival Rundown. I still think they're going to start recruiting, and I don't want them to be allowed to recruit, so I'm going to follow them. At first, the two staff members didn't care, and they were going to let these two guys walk along, and figured that I was going to stay at the church, and they'd be safe. Well, as soon as they cross the street, naturally, I cross the street and I start following them. And I start kind of pressing their buttons a little bit about, hey, look, the church brought you in, they wouldn't let you do this, and all that. And I'm razzing them a little bit. And lo and behold, I turn around and I see that the female is going to chase us down again. So the female comes by again. You know, I confront her with anything positive to say about the church. She's absolutely mute. She goes and wrangles in these two guys, and instead of walking back past me, they decide they're going to walk around the science theater and then come in the front door of Scientology. And I'm asking them questions all along. She is trying to hustle them. She is walking them very, very fast. And she keeps on getting ahead of them and looking back and waiting for them. And these two guys are still like, why the hell can't we be out here? What's the big deal, right? So, so there's a stupid walk, a stupid non-Scientologist out here. Who cares? Nonetheless, she walks them around the building and walks them in. And this weekend was the first time you heard me sing. I did sing one of my favorite songs from the old the Black Sheep Squadron, and it's the old "Ba ba black sheep," right? We are poor little sheep who have lost our way. Ba ba black sheep, because that's what it looked like. It looked like little Bo Peep leading her sheep home. So they go inside. For the most part, that was kind of the end of the event there. Well, I did say, hey, you better stay inside. And I think I also had one more quick quip, which was something like, hey, try the veal, I'll be here all day. But at that point, I decide, all right, I've got to get back to the hotel. I've got to get ready to go over to the celebration of life. So I head home and get ready for the celebration of life. I knew a few of the people there, so Free Xenu Project and I had been chatting. He was already over at the event space, and I said, "Hey, do they need any help?" And he said, "Yeah, they can use help." So I decided I'm going to go over early. So I showed up maybe 12:30 for the 2 o'clock event, and I helped to do whatever I could, right, to set up some tables, to put the easels out, all whatever was needed, right? It was, I've got two hands, let's go help. So now you've heard, right, that Free Xenu Project was also there, and Lana was there, so that's somebody who I've met while we're there. What else? That was kind of it. Now, something that was really enjoyable to me, as people would come up, I'm an introvert, but I understand that I have to put myself forward and be welcoming to others. And some of Tony's friends started showing up, and I had asked them the name and, hey, why are you here? And they would talk about it. And yeah, Tony used to run the fashion store over here, and he was such a generous person. I used to love him. He was kind of a fashion guy, and I would walk in and he'd say, here, try this on. This is you. Yeah, you need this. And he goes, I can't afford this. He goes, don't worry, we're your friends and family. We've got a discount for it. But it was great to hear these stories about Tony and how we know Tony through Natalie and through the protesting phase. But now I'm starting to see a little bit more of Tony through the eyes of his friends and neighbors. So that was really, really cool. Yes, thank you, no one. Yeah, it was 8C. I was so wrong. I think I said TR8, and it might also be TR8, but 8C is the actual action of when you physically take somebody by to move them around. So you're trying to control another human, and I think the C in 8C is control. Then that's really what was going on at that point in time. So thank you, no one, for the education and the cramming, always helpful. But it was so nice to hear several of these people. There was another couple that they had come from Ohio, and they had a fun story with me. They knew me, I didn't know them, and they said, hey, we stopped in Chicago. I told my husband I wanted to stop in Chicago, and they stopped in Chicago, had some time there, and then they came on to Minneapolis, and it was fun to hear about their trip. He was a Vietnam veteran, definitely went over and thanked him for his service, but just neat that people, it was their vacation, so they spent their vacation to come and help out, help Natalie celebrate Tony's life. Overnight there were storms, and when we got to the event, the power line had come down, so there was no power at the house. The power line behind the house had come down, and this is an Airbnb. It's a nice, it's an old bed and breakfast from days gone by, and it's a beautiful space. But there's a power line down in the driveway. There's garbage cans that are trying to help people realize don't touch the live wire. There's a power company is there. They're trying to work on that. The person who owns the bed and breakfast, which by the way is a friend of Natalie's, they go out and buy a generator just to make sure it's just in case. But at the end of the day, 20 minutes before 2 o'clock, the power finally comes on. We have air conditioning in the house. All the lights are back on, so that's great stuff. Um, as people start arriving, everybody just naturally starts conversations. It was really nice to see this, right? And again, you'd see creators were there, friends and family were there, locals were there, but the biggest excitement was the people who are just chat members, right? People who, in earnest, just love to follow what's going on with the content and are fans of the anti-Scientology movement and of Tony and of Natalie. And it would be fun of, it was the, do you know who I am? And it's like, absolutely not. And then they would say their channel name or their handle and say, oh, I do know you, right? And Fuzzy and Opal, if you can help me, right? Monkey Eyebrow was there. Jilbo Baggins was there. Jersey Jan was there. Genuine Lee was there. Amber Vanace was there, right? So we know that she's an ex-Scientologist. Her and I had a fun conversation, and you've heard it already from her interviews. She was the troubled kid, right? So she was always getting in trouble and almost got kicked out more so than had to escape Scientology. Xenu Free was there. I won't say her real name, but I really enjoyed talking to Z News was there. And Z News is the one that, in partnership with Fluffer Squirrel UK, they run sptv.space. Z News is the more technical person, and she did all the programming of the site, whereas Fluffer Squirrel UK, she owns the list. So by the way, if you want to be on sptv.space, you as the channel owner need to talk to Fluffer Squirrel UK. That you can't tell your friends that you want to be on it. And if we tell them that, can you please put my friend on the channel, they're going to say, no, we need to hear it directly from them. So I would also encourage you, on sptv.space, if you want to contact them, make sure that you're emailing both Fluffer Squirrel UK as well as Z News. They both get busy and get overwhelmed by a lot of the work they have to do. So let's go ahead and send out the information to both of them so that they don't have to constantly remember about sharing that. Who else? Nance Drew was there. So Nance Drew and Juanita were up there. Juanita is another one who, she is just somebody who is always in servitude of others. So she had brought little gift bags for everybody. At the end of the day, she folded all the tablecloths, put all the tables away, folded up all the chairs. And I've always known this about, she's just such a genuinely helpful person and exudes kindness. So, and boy, hers, I'll never remember. It's TEG something. But she's just a joyful lady. Yes, Chow Yun Smut. And by the way, I didn't know what community Chow Yun Smut came out of, and I was very much what? But that was really cool. Nance Drew, it was fun catching up with Nance Drew because Nance Drew did all the tourist things as well. The hotel we stayed at was right next to Paisley Park, so we got to see that. Yep, Barb was there. And again, we saw Barb at the protest on Saturday. We saw her inside the Howdy Lady Jane Out. We saw her inside the event space as well for the celebration of life. So that was incredibly enjoyable. Again, the day was just flowing with friendship and love, and as family would come and family would go, you would hear "I love you" a lot. And I thought, this must be such a foreign element to a actual Scientologist, that people showing up in support of one another and loving one another in that space. So it really was a beautiful day. Then we got to the point, and this was live streamed on several channels. I don't know which channels, but it was live streamed on several channels. That Natalie gave a few words. George, growing up in Scientology, gave a few words. Very moving, right? That you could. It was genuine, 100% genuine in that space. And then Lana did the hula, and that hula was very, very. It was emotional. It was moving. It was very nice. I thought it was just incredible. That had gotten there. Yes, Nance. I'm guessing that it was much more fun than court as well. And by the way, I don't know if we ever heard. Did you get to Paisley Park? So, um, who else did we see there? Ted S. I talked about, and Ted S. is just starting his channel, so whatever we can do to try and help and support him, that would be great. He lives near the Twin Cities, and when he realized how easy it is to do what needs to be done, so I think I can do this. I think I can come out a little bit. Yeah, I'm sorry, Xenofree was not there, right? It was Z News that was there. Let's see here. Yes, Feral Share was there. We talked about that earlier. Who else? Who else do we remember being there that I haven't mentioned yet? But again, a lot of fans and fans. That's arrogant. A lot of people who are committed to the community and show up and they cheer for us every day. They are the ones that do the likes. They're the subscribers, the super chatters, all of that. Wait, Barb who? And by the way, nobody said Barb. It was always Barb. it was inevitably that was always the way that came across. By the way, Style, I know you said a couple of things. Hi, I know I haven't said hi yet. Thanks. Great to be there. Hey, Danny, great to see you. Hope things are going well out there. I think you're still in LA right now. Hope things are going well out there. So that was the day, and again, I was very fortunate that Natalie asked me to stay for dinner, and I stayed for dinner. The big thing there was that we were able to get the spam sushi. So she had rice teriyaki. Darn it, what's the seaweed? We do seaweed wrap, but it was seaweed wrap around spam, teriyaki sauce, and rice. So I got to have some spam. And then we went out on the patio again, and it was just, again, a communal. Nori, thank you, Farrell. I appreciate that. It was just another communal space, and you would see 2 or 3 people sitting together, and then those 2 or 3 people would get up and they'd move, 1 or 2 of them would move over to another space. And it was just again, similar to the night before, to see Natalie so comforted by the love and the laughter and the emotion that was there. It was, again, it was such a treat to have been there. And then went home the next day. I was able to enjoy breakfast with Mama Opal, with Nance Drew, and Juanita, and then we started for home. And you folks followed me all the way home, right? There were so many people that were in the chat. Again, we were 30 to 40 people almost all day long. We took a different route home. We saw a little bit more of the back roads between the Twin Cities and Winona, La Crosse. So just more wooded, more curvy roads, went through some smaller towns on down, and then headed out. We had a lot of technical difficulties because the phone would stop or the car would take over the phone and all that fun stuff. But thank you, Fuzzy Pink Handcuffs and Nancy Alley. You kept the. Yes, I did get snacks without giving any to the rest of you. That hopefully you enjoyed the ride. You saw a lot of the things between St. Paul and Chicago, or the Twin Cities and Chicago. Howdy, Eric Rader. Thanks for coming in. One thing you'll see I put out a video today, Scientology forces members inside. And I let it play through. You're going to see these two gentlemen, right, that I confronted all day long. Um, and in the middle of that, you're going to see a little section of, hey, make sure you're subscribing to Cubs, make sure you're subscribing to Eric, make sure you're subscribing to Boston Audit K, make sure you're subscribing to MD Media. These people who are persistently out there doing auditing. And again, I said in the video, and I'll say it here, it's not better or worse. I have an affinity for the people that are out on the street every day. But we also need the second gens and the ex-Scientologists or former Scientologists to help educate us on how do we most effectively frustrate this organization from growing and help people come out of that organization. So my hope is that you guys are really spreading the love quite a bit in regards to all of these other protesters that are out there. You've got the channels who are doing panels, interviews, the recaps, right? With the Natalie, I think Natalie is one of the most important channels because with 200 channels, who can watch everything? So that's really important. I feel really bad for Eric Rader, right? He's been out there in that sun, and it's just ridiculous. The heat that's out there. Yeah, absolutely, Cubs. That it takes the second gens and the X's to inform us and to coach us, to give us the ammunition, so that we can now go and again, the way that I want to describe it, I want to frustrate Scientology as best I can. And there's times where if I have to laugh at something that Scientology did, I'm going to laugh, and I'm not going to feel bad about it at all, right? So, so I think it was yesterday, and I'm sure it happens a lot, but I saw that he had gone to staple some stuff up to the post, and the spring fell out of the back, and it was like, no problem. Picks up the spring, stuffs the staplers back in there, stuffs the spring back in there, starts whacking the pole again. We're just going to get it done. Love it. So, and then a lot of you, again, oh no, that's not good. All right, folks, we need to go over to Eric's Amazon wish list and get him another stapler. So that was basically it. Now, I'm going to go back and answer one question that I saw earlier, which was, what was my favorite part of the ride, of the drive? Definitely the idea that everybody was there. That so many people were in chat, keeping me company, telling me stories, asking me questions. It was an enjoyable part of the ride. Now, if you're going to ask me if nobody was there, what was my favorite part of the ride? From St. Paul to Winona, all the way to La Crosse, I just love driving down the Mississippi. You've got the river there, you've got the eagles, you've got the trees, you've got the bluffs. And on those roads, it was so quiet. There were plenty of times where we went 20, 30 minutes and maybe we saw a car come at us, but we wouldn't really pass cars going the other way. So that was amazing. Yeah, you know what? Thank you, Marina. While Nance and Juanita and I were up in Minnesota, Chicago still had people frustrating them. So Helly was out there and Korn was out there, and they were killing it. And again, if we think about this, these are people that it's not easy for them to get to the org, right? When I think about it, Free Xenu Project, he's shown up at several, but he shows up at Chicago the most. He does not live in Chicago. He doesn't live in Illinois, Korn does not live in Chicago. She doesn't live in Illinois. It's amazing that these people are so dedicated and they just keep showing up, right? And they make it hard on the church, right? And they have a good time doing it, right? That's the part that I think is really enjoyable, is the idea that we can have fun while we're really pissing off the church, right? Okay. For those of you that followed me all weekend, what did I forget? Let me know. But also, what questions do you have, right? Any questions about the weekend? Any questions about anything else? I will say, so me and Taz, I was so worried about music. that I feel like I get demonetized if I was going to play music. So that was my only fear there. Oh, you know what? Next time, screw the monetization. Let's go ahead and play music. It was hot up there, and because the storms kept on rolling through, we kept on getting, yeah, it was humid, right? And even when it would rain, sometimes rain takes the humidity out of the air. It just would stock. It would come back so quickly. Uh, Jesus is God. Yep, I agree that, you know, Aaron just like a beast. I'm walking down into the garage and I'm going inside that building, and I'm glad he did it because it gave me so much courage the next day. Right. So on Sunday, um, who knows what would have happened had he not gone into the garage on Saturday. Oh boy. All right. So I'm definitely going to have to do snacks next time. Yeah, correct, Kendra. I appreciate that I didn't get stopped by the cops. I will say that my modus operandi for driving is get behind the fastest car and follow him. I didn't get you cheese when I was in Wisconsin, and if you watched Farrell Cheryl, who was on just before me, Farrell Cheryl got her first taste of cheese curds. Also, when you're in Wisconsin, there is a beer out of New Glarus, and New Glarus is an unpasteurized beer, so you can only buy it in the state of Wisconsin. They can't ship it across state borders. You can drive it across state borders, but you can't buy it across there. Wait, Marina, oh, the crime is that I didn't get anybody cheese curds. Um, and yeah, Farrell, I'm going to find a beer that you'll like. There is such a breadth of beers that are out there. Some taste like pine trees. You said Guinness. Um, there are several bold Scotch beers that are out there. So, what is Mindy here tonight? Somebody go find Mindy and tell her to get her butt over here right now. And if she does not call me, I am going to kick her in the butt. Um, and good news, part of my family will be at a work event this week, so I can spend more time outside the house. I'll have less family obligations. Oh, so she's in the Chicago. She's in the Chicago airport. Did I miss any of the? And I know I did. Who were some of the channel subscribers that I haven't remembered? Yes. Just so we're clear, Mindy is nicer than I am. So you got that right, Scooter Mom. Wait, only sub to Mindy Willens if when she comes to Chicago, she looks me up and we do a Windy Wanders the City. I can be just as good as Dan Walks LA, except he's better looking. I did not go through Milwaukee, Kendra. So one of the reasons was that it's a little bit it's longer to go through Milwaukee so Milwaukee would be taking 94 out of Chicago, but when you take 90 out of Chicago, you go much further west faster. Uh, Also, on the way back, they would have been setting up for the convention, and that would have been a nightmare. So, um, let's see what else we've got there. Okay. I want to respond to Dorothy Walters, but if all of you could respond to Dorothy Walters, you believe that there's somebody that can walk my legs off? That's the one skill I have in protesting, my ability to outwalk anybody. By the way, no one, cheese curds does sound gross, but it's the word curds. If you think about cheese, which is yummy, um, and it turns out cheese curds are awesome. And yeah, Mama Opal, Jersey Jan was there as well. And darn it, there was um, when Jilbo came in, that table had 5 or 6 people, and I know I'm not remembering everybody that was at that table. I'll say this: I will walk fast with Mindy. I will not make make Mindy wait for me. Oh, Dorothy, that's cute. She walked 8 miles. And by the way, I'm teasing her. Um, so there have been days where I've walked um, 8 miles just going just on a 4-hour protest, right? The day that we walked all the way out to Navy Pier from the church, from the cult, and then I walked back. Marina, I screwed up. It's adorable. And by the way, Dorothy, I'm not making fun of you either. But so historically I was a marathoner, and I put in 40,000 steps almost every day. Let's see here. By the way, if anybody, I don't know if I've got Mindy's email, but hey, somebody make the connection. Yeah, mountains are much tougher. I will agree with that. Um, that Chicago has very few mountains, none as I recall. So one of my favorite things, and it is a bragging point. I've run the Grand Canyon from rim to rim to rim in a little over 12 hours. So that's a 48-mile round trip. The good news is there's only 2 hills, but they're big-ass hills. Any other questions? Anything about the channel? Anything about the weekend? The thing that so one thing that Mindy can do 1,000 times better than me, she can smile. I don't know if that girl can't smile. She just lights up a room whenever I see her. I'm very glad I went. So again, that to be in the room and to see Natalie smile and laugh, it was such a treat, just a genuine treat to me. And then all of the other people that were there, you know, his local family and friends, I probably won't see them ever again, but it was fun to share those stories, and it gives you another insight as to what Tony was and who Tony was. Then the people who are just fans of the creators and the creators that were there. It There was nothing negative that occurred at any time this weekend, right? That there was no backbiting for the most part. We all ignored YouTube, right? We were fairly sensitive to making sure that we weren't really streaming at the event until the speeches and the dance. Kathy, you're right. It is an awesome community, and I'll even say that while there are people that stir things up in this community, uh, I still think that the goodness in this community far outweighs that silliness that is there, right? Ha. Oh, good night, me Taz. Where are you? Are you way east Canada? Hmm. Kendra, I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, and Dorothy, it really was, uh, whether it was family or right, the old uh, the family you make, or the family you have, right? There definitely was the family you make. Yeah. So, that's something that I don't know that everybody knows, but when I met Natalie and Tony, it's when they came to the Chicago org shortly after the opening. Um, and right, Natalie was already a big deal, and most of the people that were there kind of wanted to congregate around her naturally. But by the way, that there is no. I'm not casting aspersions. I don't want anybody to read into whatever I'm saying here. But the idea that right, she was an attention grabbing, and not that she's an attention grabbing. She's a star in this community, so naturally people would gravitate towards her. Um, I really enjoyed talking to Tony. Um, he can talk about any topic. He is a man of the world. Um, he's done so much. He's been so many places, uh, that, and it was just fun to talk to him. I remember the police interaction we had that day, and he just stood up like a boss, and he told the police, "Yeah, we're not we're not a group. We're all here independently. We're just here protesting, which is our First Amendment right." And yeah, there was a connection. The boss, the the cops talked to her, right? Yeah, Nan's absolutely right that, yep, it was fun to talk to Tony, and yeah, Farrell Cheryl, you're absolutely correct. He had wisdom, um, and uh, I, my guess would be there is never going to be a topic that you would have been able to talk to him that he couldn't have talked genuinely about, right? He just had that very worldly understanding of things that were out there. So, um, yeah, ability to play guitar, right? We have an affinity because he was also a motorcycle rider. I loved motorcycles. I loved touring on that. So, Dorothy, another great statement. Eric, I'm glad you're here too. And you get Eric's one of the special things about Eric is, not only is he an incredibly dedicated protester, he's an ex-Scientologist. So, um, he's one of the reasons we try to lend our voice to this protest movement, right? That you've got all of these former Scientologists who went through great atrocities, and many of us didn't go through these atrocities. We may have had other difficulties in life, but we didn't go through these atrocities. And it's so easy for us to stand up and say, I don't want to stand for that. So, um, yeah, Scooter. One thing, and I'm trying to work with Kelly a little bit because I think she does much better at editing than I do, but I've got a lot of recordings from the Chicago visit, and I want to see if we can get those together and just give that as a gift to Natalie. All right. Any other questions? Um, I, I don't know what time are we almost to Tori time? No, Tori doesn't come in for another. Tori's amazing. How late does she stay up? Um, Anybody else out there that we can go share some love with? And by the way, have I answered everything we wanted to tonight? Yes, go sub to Kelly Copter. By the way, Kelly, and we need to encourage her to do this more. Kelly has been doing some impromptu lives. She is a queen at doing edited or produced material. I don't think she realizes how much of a joy she is as a person. So I loved watching when she did the audit in London, and she went out to a goat farm the other day. It's just pleasure watching her. Yeah. Okay, Kendra, I can't go for another 3 hours. Fuzzy, anybody out there we can go watch? And yes, please, if you know what, if you can, I really would appreciate it. I've got the other channel, Windy Wanders the City, and in that one, we really just we wander around the city, and I'll show you different neighborhoods. I'll show you different points of interest. I will show you the things that every tourist wants to see, and I will show you all the things that no tourist ever finds because only a local would know it. Hello, Rochelle. Rochelle, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And just to, I do think that the whole community matters, right? That you've got the former Scientologists who went through these atrocities and they're able to educate us in this space. And then you've got the protesters. And I do think that we have to thank William Good. Well, we have to thank Scientology for being a jerk to William Good. And once that that really sparked a fire, and all of these, most of these protesters are in some way or another doing it because of what happened there, right? What with what happened with William Good, uh, and we need the people that are in the chats, right? That they're the moral support, right? If we don't get the moral support from you, we sometimes don't think that maybe what we're doing isn't the right thing. So it's very important that you're in there subscribing to show us that you do care, and everything that's going on there. Um, that I think it's very important that people realize that just watching is helpful to us. Excellent idea, Fuzzy. Israel, and by the way, I still call him Israel because he introduced himself to me as Israel. What you don't know, what you may not know, is Israel is a survivor of it was the Iowa crash, right? Sioux City, Iowa. Uh, Israel was on that plane, and this coming weekend is the one of the anniversaries of that. So yeah, MD Media, that's another one, right? The idea that you've got no one in these chats, Eric Rader in these chats, Dylan in these chats, so that when we're out in front of an org, they're able to help us know what we're seeing and how we might want to challenge, confront, however you want to talk about that, in regards to the um, to the Scientologists or the public that might be sucked into the Scientology. So that's always important. Um, and by the way, when I call out some of these names, I'm not casting shade on other people. It's just the names that I've remembered at this point in time. There's 200 channels, right? And I know that I'm very consistent. Damn it, I haven't talked about Declared Dave tonight, right? As a never in, he's somebody that is, Mark Bunker and him are probably the two most educated never ins there have ever been in the space, and it's always a joy to watch Declared Dave. And he's got some new content coming out that's going to have a little bit more of a humorous bend to it. So, um, all right. All right, let's go over and see Israel Brownfield. I'm sorry, Brownstein. I'm a computer person. I keep on saying Brownfield. Brownfield is when you try to recode something, whereas Greenfield is new stuff. All right, let's go ahead and head over to Israel's channel. I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Thank you so much. Hopefully you got something out of my recap of just a great weekend. So thank you all, and have a great night.